The Dream Season Football League Series 6 is the series to determine the greatest dynasty in the history of the NFL. 2010's Arizona Cardinals, 2010's Seattle Seahawks. Antonio Cromartie picks off this Russell Wilson pass and brings it back for a touchdown. Well, for those of you who don't know much about the 10 Seahawks, part of it may be their dynasty was really short. They made it to 2 Super Bowls in 3 years and came within a run at the 1-yard line for Marshawn Lynch away from winning the game against the Patriots in Super Bowl in 2015. This sack forced fumble recovery from Bruce Irvin wins the game for the 10's Seahawks dynasty. It's been a brutal month for them. They went from 4-0 to 5-4, but they beat the Cardinals on Thursday night in a good football game and are still a wild card team at 6-4 in the NFC. Due to that Seattle win on Thursday night, the 2010's Carolina Panthers have to win to stay alive in the wild card race. Cam Newton, the most dangerous quarterback in the league this season, coming in with 400 yards rushing, most among quarterbacks. He has been incredible, gives the Panthers a 13-9 lead, but then Ollie Klein scores from 25 yards, and Detroit, who has led the NFC North for basically the entire season, is just a minute and a half away from a win against Carolina. McCaffrey gains 24, and then the Panthers have a shot for the lead. Steve Smith, the team's leading receiver, drops the football. Wide open with about 2 steps. It very easily could have been a fumble. Instead, the Panthers settle for a field goal midway through overtime. The 10's Panthers drop another one. That was Ted Ginn Jr. Panthers get a second chance defensively to win the game late, but John Henry Johnson continues his marvelous day with another catch. That's his 10th of 11 here in Charlotte. And the Lions' Jim Martin ends the game with a walk-off field goal late in overtime against Ron Rivera and Carolina. The Panthers will finish the day as the 7th seed in the NFC at 6-5, but it's an airtight conference. John Henry Johnson continues his Hall of Fame season with 11 more catches in the win against a good defense in the 10's Carolina Panthers. Paul Brown, one of the greatest coaches in the history of the National Football League, and the 1940s Cleveland Browns has put the league on notice. Neil Armstrong scores for the 40s Philadelphia Eagles and quickly jump in front 14-0, but the Cleveland Browns, the best offense in the DSFL, Max Speedy, the #1 receiver in the league with nearly 1,000 yards already this year, sparks a Browns comeback. Horace Gilliam reels in his 3rd touchdown of the season. Marion Motley scores once, then Marion Motley scores twice. And Otto Graham fuels a huge comeback win for the Browns. He is among the top 5 in passing as Cleveland's, led by the best offense in the DSFL, are rolling right now at 6-4. The aforementioned 40s Browns dynasty won 5 consecutive world championships. The Oilers are going up against the dynasty that won 3 Super Bowls in 5 seasons in the 10's Patriots. Brandon Cooks wasn't a huge playmaker throughout the 10's. He certainly was really good. He is turning into a playmaker in the DSFL. This guy, number 87, Charlie Hennigan, well, he's been a playmaker for the 60s Oilers all season. He grabs 2 touchdowns to single-handedly lift the team in front at the end of the first half. What a run there again from Hennigan. With 758 yards on 41 catches, Hennigan ranks 5th in the league. He's been incredible. Cooks puts them inside the red zone, and then White is in to put New England in front. Then after a Houston punt, LeGarrette Blount finds the end zone for the first time this season, and the Patriots slam the door in a Houston comeback in the 3rd quarter with Jabal Shear. With 9.5 sacks this season, he has been magnificent as he puts his shoe in the air. Brandon Cooks, he had a coming out party against the Houston Oilers with a couple of scores, and New England knocks out Houston. The Patriots right now, as of today, they are the top seed of the AFC, but with 7 wins and 3 losses, a lot of teams are right there on their heels. Well, one of those teams nipping on the Patriots' heels at 6-3 coming into today's game are the Colts. Yet the Green Bay Packers with Jim Taylor scores 2 touchdowns in the first 3 quarters. Paul Hornung is hurt. The Colts also are down their starting tight end, Dallas Clark, so Brian Fletcher is in. And after this 4th down and 31 incompletion, the Colts went for it from their own 7. The Packers on the very next play make a huge mistake. The first pick of the season for Bob Sanders is brought back 99 yards for a touchdown. One of the most amazing things of the season not being mentioned, Sanders has yet to be hurt. It seems he's hurt every single game. And somehow he has lasted the test of time so far, but go figure, I might have just jinxed his health for future weeks. Starr is sacked on a third down here by Keonta Dawson, so the Colts get the ball with a chance to win it. Brian Fletcher, aforementioned tight end from UCLA, grabs an 11-yard pass, and then the Colts convert another third down here, so it looks like they're rolling with ease against this top-flight Packer defense. Yet the 1960s Packers had pass rushers everywhere. Bill Keeneland sacks Peyton Manning for a huge loss of 13 yards. And with under a minute to go in the game, this is one of the plays of the year. Manning spins away from the pressure and then heaves it deep where he finds his running back downfield for a gain of 35. In one of the most incredible plays in the pocket, Manning sets up the Colts and then delivers the go-ahead touchdown pass. It's the first scoring grab of the season for Anthony Gonzalez, and it's to give the Colts an 18-14 lead. The Packers have a chance with that Hall of Famer Bart Starr. We'll see if he can respond to this with just a few seconds to go in the game. He would need to heave one about 75 yards. This one would fall a little short, and it's deflected by Antoine Bethea. The Indianapolis Colts of the 2000s, in a miracle, come back to win the game, and the Packers lose their starting linebacker in the process. Green Bay's 3-game winning streak comes to a close in Indianapolis. Well, these are two of the most overachieving dynasties in the DSFL 6 so far this season. Flacco finds the end zone, and then the Ravens would finish the game with a fourth down interception of Steve McNair. The Ravens next week will pay a visit to the 70s Steelers in a special presentation of Thanksgiving Thursday. That's coming up this Thursday for Thanksgiving week in the DSFL 6. Speaking of those Steelers, they visit the 1990s Jaguars in what was turning into a joke of a game from the opening kickoff. Franco Harris, the Steelers fullback, becomes the first player in the history of the Dream Season Football League as a non-quarterback to account for 4 all-purpose touchdowns. The defense played pretty good too, and Terry Bradshaw had it going. 3rd and 23, that's no matter for the Steelers when you're playing this type of defense. And led by Tom Coughlin, the Jaguars absolutely lay an egg against Pittsburgh. Franco Harris was incredible. He earns Player of the Week honors, of course, with 117 yards on the ground and 95 through the air. The 70s Steelers also are 7-3 to begin the season. Well, speaking of dumpster fires, the 1-win 80s Cincinnati Bengals battle the 80s Washington Redskins. And early, the Bengals' Tim Krumrie would have the ball bounce their way. Skip McClendon grabs that one, and at the half, Cincinnati leads Washington 10-3. But then Joe Washington would spark an incredible second-half rally by the Redskins, and Joe Gibbs and company would wind up winning the game. Washington makes this touchdown grab, and then here, as Esiason loses the ball, Coleman tries to be tackled. He runs the wrong way. No one's there. I'll go ahead and run the right way. Well, the Bengals already, if they don't win next week, they, with plenty of football to be played, will be eliminated from the playoffs. They've been terrible. Washington visits the 90s Cowboys also on Thanksgiving Thursday. Make sure to stay tuned for that on the DSFL 6. Well, for those of you who love no defense at all, that was plenty of it at Mercedes-Benz Superdome in New Orleans. Colston grabs this one with one hand. The two teams accounted for 834 yards with a Lance Moore touchdown. It looked like there wouldn't be much of a contest here, but Bush is stopped on a 4th down. Makes you wonder what they're even doing going for it on a 4th down. They could kick a field goal, go up 10, and Gabriel delivers an 86-yard touchdown, so the game's all of a sudden tied. And then Drew Brees, who has a virtuoso performance against, yes, the Atlanta defense. They were not good at all in the 2010s, and it's a similar case here this season. He drives it right downfield and wins it with a Garrett Hartley 22-yarder. Brees accounts for 398 yards in the win. New Orleans hopes to keep this one going. They're 7-3 and visit the 90s Denver Broncos next Sunday. Speaking of the 1990s Denver Broncos, they play host to division rival 60s San Diego. And early on, Ray Crockett would intercept the John Hadl pass, which would lead a few plays later to this incredible catch in the end zone from Mike Sherrard. We would hear of his name again. Anderson finds the end zone too. Broncos near the half were up 17-7. But this also was a game with very little defense played. The second touchdown pass of the football game for John Hadl was to Luther Hayes. And then the second touchdown catch of the game from Mike Sherrard with a 2-point conversion lifts the Broncos up 28-14. It should be noted, the Denver Broncos, if the playoffs were to start today, would be the first team out in the AFC as the 8th seed. After a Gene Foster touchdown, as mentioned, there was very little defense, so the Chargers couldn't stop John Elway. The Hall of Fame quarterback has had a tough season, and certainly the injuries has played a huge role in the Broncos struggling offensively, but they beat the Chargers today. Crucial division win, 323 yards from John Elway. And while he does lose his starting defensive tackle, Alfred Williams, at the top, Terrell Davis, will return next week when the Broncos take on the Saints. Denver 28, San Diego 21. This late afternoon football game is a microcosm as to why the 90s Cowboys had 3 Super Bowl championships and the Vikings lost 3 Super Bowls in the 1970s. Well, after this touchdown, the Vikings looked way in control, up 17-7, but then Joe Kapp has a half to remember, and that's in the wrong way, as he fumbles a sack from Charles Haley. That would lead to a Cowboys field goal from Chris Bonial. By the way, after this, the worst luck that we see on an interception to Ken Norton. We'll look at that again, just the absolute worthless luck. By the way, in this game, Chris Bonial set a league record 60-yard field goal he made in this football game against Minnesota. The Cowboys come all the way back, convert a 4th and 1, showing some serious guts. Smith would score on the very next play, and then on 4th and 7, Kapp commits his 5th turnover of the half. This one brought back by Darren Woodson for a touchdown. Just different levels of firepower. That's why the 90s Cowboys won as much as they did. In fact, if they didn't fire their coach, Jimmy Johnson, I think the Cowboys win 4, 5, maybe 6 Super Bowls. This dynasty's really good. They win the game 38-17. Both of these teams should have won more Super Bowls than they did. 70s Raiders and the 10s Chiefs. Dave Casper, he is very emotional for the Raiders, but despite the energy, Oakland would come out flat in the first half of this football game. Stabler loses a fumble, scoop and score from Juan Thornhill of Kansas City. The Chiefs led at one point by a tally of 13-7, but then Biletnikoff gives Oakland the lead in the third quarter. And it wouldn't get any better as Mahomes throws his 11th pick of the season. It really hasn't been all that productive of a year for Patrick Mahomes, the 2018 league MVP. Yet, with 5:30 to go in the game, he finds Demarcus Robinson. We would hear of his name later. And then on 3rd and 10, Tyreek Hill for a 30-yard touchdown. He is the league leader in receiving this season, and he's closing in already on about 1,000 yards already. 2-point conversion, not successful, but Nelson hits Stabler on a 3rd down, so the Raiders have to settle for a field goal. They had a chance to win the game right there. And just decent numbers from Patrick Mahomes. The 2 interceptions hurts the Chiefs too. Kansas City, though, has a chance. That's all you can ask for with Patrick Mahomes, that guy. He goes downfield for Tyreek Hill, and then the Chiefs, Demarcus Robinson, touchdown to win the game. What a football game, and now the AFC West is really, really good. The Broncos, the Chiefs, and the Raiders are all leading the division at 5-5. Well, that Kansas City win on Sunday night snapped a 5-game skid for them. Meanwhile, the Rams, with this blowout victory against the 2000s Tampa Bay Buccaneers, the 2000s Rams have now won 7 games in a row. They are the hottest team in the league by a mile right now as they crush the Buccaneers 27-3. And with that, here's a look at games around the league from Week 11 and then a preview of Week 12, including Thanksgiving. Make sure to stay tuned on Thursday for a special presentation of the 3 games on Thanksgiving. And now let's look at the most fascinating division right now in the league, the AFC West. Raiders, Broncos, and Chiefs all 5-5. None of them play each other in Week 12. They'll be back to battling it out in Week 13 against each other. They're going to other divisions. Here's a look at the remainder of the divisions and then also the league leaders. It's been a fascinating season. We're back in action. It's the DSFL 6 on Thursday for Thanksgiving. This is the DSFL 6, the series to determine the greatest dynasty in NFL history.